The ship, Orion's Reach, cruised silently through the stars, its hull glinting against the backdrop of a violet-hued planet, Lyrus. From the bridge, Captain Miles Foster watched the swirling clouds with growing unease. He had seen storms before, but nothing like this. The planet's surface was engulfed in furious cyclones and lightning storms, as if the entire atmosphere was in revolt. "We are entering Lyrus's orbit now," Lieutenant Jenna Cross reported from the helm, adjusting the ship's thrusters. "Sensors are showing extreme weather conditions, hurricanes, tsunamis, tornadoes. Indeed, the energy readings are off the charts." Dr. Elena Cato, the mission's lead meteorologist, stood beside her monitor, analyzing the data. "These storms aren't natural," she said, her brow furrowing. "They're being controlled." Captain Foster turned to her. "Controlled by whom?" "The Zolkar Dominion," a voice spoke from behind. It was Commander Alex Reyes, the ship's first officer. "They've been known to use atmospheric manipulation to weaken planets before moving in to strip their resources. Lyrus is rich in xylite, a resource they'll stop at nothing to take." Foster clenched his fists. Lyrus was supposed to be a peaceful survey mission, a chance to study the planet's unique atmosphere and establish friendly contact with its native inhabitants, the Lysari. But now it was clear the Zolkar had beaten them to it. "What about the Lysari? Have they evacuated?" "No," Elena replied. "They're still down there. But our readings show they've retreated underground to escape the storms." "Typical," Foster muttered. "A peaceful race, and the Zolkar are exploiting them. We can't just sit by and let this happen." Elena nodded in agreement. "If we can get down to the surface, I might be able to analyze how the Zolkar are controlling the weather. Maybe we can fight back." Foster looked over the planet's chaotic surface. "Descending into that maelstrom wouldn't be easy. We'll need to find a landing spot away from the worst of the storms. Cross, plot us a course to a calmer region." "Reyes!" "Prep a ground team. We need to get down there and make contact with the Lysari, see if they have any way of resisting the Zolkar." Reyes raised an eyebrow. "If we're going down there, sir, we'd better be prepared for a fight. The Zolkar won't take kindly to us interfering." Foster smirked. "Let them try. We're not leaving until we've done what we came here to do, protect the innocent and give the Zolkar a run for their money." The Orion's Reach began its descent through the turbulent atmosphere, the ship's hull groaning under the pressure of the storm-ridden skies. Elena sat at her station, monitoring the fluctuations in the storm patterns. She had never seen such precision in atmospheric control. The Zolkar were masters at this, but something about it intrigued her. "These storms aren't random," Elena muttered to herself, tracing patterns on her display. "It's almost like they're mining the planet." "Explain," Foster called from his chair. Elena brought up a series of images, showing how the storms moved in sync with shifts in the planet's magnetic field. "They're using the storms to tear the surface apart, excavating the xylite with extreme weather. The energy from the crystal might be feeding their control towers." Reyes stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "So, they're ripping this planet apart from the inside out. That's why the Lysari can't fight back." Foster's jaw tightened. "Then we'll give them a fighting chance." "Elena, see if you can figure out a way to disrupt their weather control tech once we're down there." "Reyes, get the weapons ready." "If they've already started the mining process, we're going to have to move fast." The ship rocked as it entered the planet's lower atmosphere. Torrential rain pelted the hull, and winds howled against the engines, but Orion's Reach pressed on. Guided by Cross's steady hand, they flew low, skimming over the purple forests and canyons, searching for a place to land. "There!" Helena pointed to a clearing in the storm. "It's small, but it'll give us cover from the worst of the weather." "Take us down." "I do," Foster ordered. The ship descended into the clearing, settling among the dense foliage. The crew quickly mobilized, gathering equipment and weapons for the mission ahead. Outside, the wind howled and thunder rumbled ominously. As the crew prepared to disembark, Foster addressed his team. This planet is under siege, and we're the only ones who can help. Our goal is twofold. Make contact with the Lysari and find a way to stop the Zolkar's control of the weather. We might be outnumbered, but we have the element of surprise. Elena shouldered her pack, glancing at the storm-ridden horizon. And with a little luck, we'll have the elements themselves. With that, the crew stepped out into the storm, ready to face an enemy that could control the very skies above them. The crew of Orion's Reach steps cautiously into the storm-ravaged landscape of Lyrus. Their sensors quickly pick up signs of the Zolkar's operations, a series of towering structures dotting the horizon, pulsating with energy. As the team pushes forward, the ground beneath them trembles, and a deafening roar fills the air. The storms raging overhead are being controlled by the Zolkar's weather towers, which are extracting valuable xylite from deep within the planet. Dr. Elena Keto watches the storm formations in awe and horror. She realizes that the Zolkar aren't just manipulating the weather, they've perfected the art of atmospheric warfare. Their towers are sophisticated, using advanced technology to create targeted storms that rip open the planet's surface, exposing vast deposits of xylite that the Zolkar mine with precision. Every storm seems to have a purpose, every gust of wind part of a larger plan to strip Lyrus of its resources. This isn't just mining, Elena says, her voice tense as she studies the readings. They're using the storms to weaken the planet itself. If they keep this up, Lyrus will be uninhabitable in a matter of months. Commander Reyes steps forward, scanning the horizon. We can't just stand by and let this happen. We need to figure out how they're doing it, and fast. The crew takes cover in the ruins of an ancient Lysari temple, using it as a makeshift base. From here, they observe the Zolkar's operations in greater detail. Small teams of Lysari slaves are forced to work alongside the Zolkar, gathering the precious xylite while under constant threat from the towering storm generators. Foster orders a covert reconnaissance mission to gather more data on the towers. He, Reyes, and a small team infiltrate one of the Zolkar outposts, evading patrols and getting close enough to the tower's control interface. The technology is unlike anything they've seen before, alien, elegant, and deadly efficient. As they try to decipher the system, the Zolkar suddenly detect their presence. A squad of Zolkar warriors, tall and menacing with their dark exoskeleton armor, descends on them. A firefight breaks out, the humans taking cover behind rubble as the Zolkar close in. During the skirmish, Elena manages to download critical data from the control tower before the team is forced to retreat. With the Zolkar hot on their heels, they narrowly escape back to the temple, bringing with them the vital information needed to understand the enemy's weather control system. Back at the base, the crew examines the stolen data. Elena's eyes widen as she uncovers the full scope of the Zolkar's operation. The Zolkar have linked their home planet to Lyrus via a quantum relay, allowing them to control the weather remotely. This means the Zolkar can manipulate Lyrus's storms from the safety of their own world, making direct attacks on the towers almost futile. However, within the data lies a hidden weakness, a feedback loop that, if triggered, could disrupt the entire system.
This is our chance,
Elena says, excitement sparking in her voice. If we can hijack their control system, we can fight back. We can stop them. Foster nods, determination hardening his expression. Then let's level the playing field. As the storm rages on outside, the crew prepares for the next step, learning to control the elements themselves, just as the Zolkar have done. The storm intensified as the Orion's Reach crew geared up for their first direct confrontation with the Zolkar. The stolen data provided insight into the enemy's weather control system, but time was running out. The Lysari population had no defenses left, and the Zolkar were tightening their grip on Lyrus, pushing the storms to increasingly destructive levels. If the humans didn't act fast, the planet's surface would be uninhabitable. Captain Foster stood at the helm of the hastily formed strike team. now positioned a few kilometers from the nearest Zolkar tower. The data stolen from the Zolkar had given Dr. Elena Cato a glimpse into the inner workings of their weather control devices. But the real challenge lay in finding a way to disable them without causing a planetary catastrophe. "We've got one shot at this," Foster said, his voice calm but firm. "Our goal is to take down that tower and disrupt their control over the local weather patterns. We do this right, and we create a safe zone for the Lysari to regroup." Commander Reyes, always the realist, scanned the horizon with a sharp eye. "And if we fail, we'll be stuck in the middle of a hurricane that's been cranked up to 11. No pressure." Elena finished calibrating the portable hacking device she had developed based on the stolen Zolkar data. "This will give us temporary access to their control grid," she explained. "But it's not a permanent fix. If we're not fast enough, the system will override the hack, and the storms will intensify." Foster gave a short nod. "Then we make sure we're fast enough." The team advanced through the rough terrain, using the wild vegetation as cover. The storm continued to rage overhead, with fierce winds whipping across the landscape. Despite the chaos, the Zolkar outpost loomed in the distance, an imposing structure with energy pulsing through its tall spires, connected directly to the atmosphere. As the humans approached the Zolkar tower, a squad of alien sentinels spotted them and opened fire. Reyes and his team returned fire, quickly taking down the guards, but not before an alarm was triggered. The Zolkar forces were now on high alert. "We don't have much time," Elena shouted over the roar of the wind as she sprinted toward the tower's control panel. She plugged the device into the console, her fingers moving swiftly as she worked to break into the Zolkar network. Foster and Reyes provided cover, exchanging gunfire with the approaching Zolkar reinforcements. The air crackled with the sounds of energy weapons, and the sky above grew darker, the storm intensifying as the Zolkar attempted to reassert control over the weather. "Elena, how much longer?" Foster yelled, ducking behind a boulder as a blast of lightning struck dangerously close. "I'm in!" she shouted back, her eyes fixed on the screen as the device began hacking into the system. "I can disable the storm over this region, but it's only temporary. We need to destroy the tower itself if we want to stop the Zolkar for good." With the device in place, the storm began to ease, the howling winds slowing to a manageable level. The humans now had a window of opportunity to make their move. Foster ordered Reyes to plant charges at the base of the tower, while Elena continued to disrupt the Zolkar's control over the atmosphere. As the charges were set, the Zolkar mounted a final counterattack. A squad of heavily armed aliens descended from the skies in sleek transport crafts, firing relentlessly at the humans. Reyes and his team fought back with everything they had, but the Zolkar were relentless. "We're out of time," Elena cried. "We need to blow the tower now, or they'll regain control of the storm." Reyes finished setting the charges and gave the signal. "Let's move." The team retreated to a safe distance as the explosives detonated, sending a massive shockwave through the area. The tower crumbled in a fiery explosion, collapsing into a heap of twisted metal and debris. For a brief moment, the skies above Lyrus cleared, the storm dissipating as the Zolkar's grip on the region weakened. But the victory was bittersweet. The Zolkar had other towers across the planet, and the battle was far from over. "We did it," Foster said, watching as the tower's remains smoldered in the distance. "But this is just the beginning. We need to find a way to stop them permanently." Elena nodded, her mind already racing with ideas. "I've learned enough to start developing our own weather control systems. But we're going to need more time and more resources. If we can synchronize our efforts with the Lysari, we might stand a chance." The team regrouped and began planning their next move. The Zolkar had underestimated the humans, but now, with the ability to control the elements themselves, the tides were starting to turn. With the Zolkar tower destroyed and temporary control over the local weather, the crew of Orion's Reach returns to their base with a renewed sense of hope. But the fight is far from over. The Zolkar have dozens of weather control towers spread across the planet, each one systematically stripping Lyrus of its resources. Worse yet, the storms are growing more powerful, and the Zolkar are reinforcing their defenses. Inside the base, Dr. Elena Cato is working tirelessly to modify the stolen Zolkar technology. The data they gathered from the first tower had given her insight into how the aliens were controlling the weather. But the next challenge is replicating that control for human use. If they can create a system capable of influencing the storms, they can level the playing field. Elena, how's it coming? Well, Captain Foster asks as he enters the makeshift lab. Elena looks up from her console, her eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. I've made progress, she says, gesturing to a newly constructed device. It's a hybrid system, part human tech, part Zolkar. It won't give us full control of the weather, but it should allow us to disrupt their storms and create localized weather patterns of our own. Foster studies the device. Impressed. This could be the key to turning the tide. We need to test it, Elena says. If it works, we might be able to stop the Zolkar from using their towers against us. Meanwhile, the Lysari leaders, having heard of the humans' success in destroying the first Zolkar tower, approach Foster with a desperate request. They ask the humans to help them liberate more regions of their planet, where the storms have been most destructive. The Lysari, though technologically behind the Zolkar, have knowledge of the planet's natural forces and terrain. Together, they form a plan to synchronize human weather control with the planet's natural energy fields, amplifying their power. The next phase of the mission involves a daring attack on a central Zolkar hub, a massive storm generator capable of controlling the entire southern hemisphere of Lyrus. If the humans can disrupt the hub, they can weaken the Zolkar's planetary weather control and create a significant strategic advantage. Foster and Reyes assemble a strike team, this time including Lysari guides who know the terrain and can lead them through the treacherous environment surrounding the hub. With Elena's weather manipulation device in hand, they embark on the most dangerous mission yet. The team makes their way toward the hub, moving stealthily through the dense forests and jagged mountains. The Zolkar have increased security around their facilities, and the crew faces several close encounters with alien patrols. But with the help of the Lysari, they manage to evade detection and reach the outskirts of the hub. From a distance, the central Zolkar generator looms like a monolith, its spires piercing the stormy sky. Lightning cracks the air, and the ground shakes as massive storms are unleashed across the planet's surface. It's clear the Zolkar are preparing for their final push to drain Lyrus of its resources. We're running out of time, Elena says, glancing at the storm patterns on her scanner. If we don't shut this down soon, the entire region will be destroyed. Reyes checks his gear and gives a sharp nod. Let's finish this. Using the device, Elena begins disrupting the Zolkar's weather systems. With each pulse of energy, the storm weakens, and for the first time, the humans create their own storm, one that matches the power of the Zolkars. The team moves in, engaging the Zolkar forces in a fierce battle around the hub. The skies erupt in a clash of elemental fury. Tornadoes, lightning, and torrential rain collide as the humans' weather control disrupts the Zolkar's dominance. In the chaos, Elena manages to link the device to the central generator. With a final burst of energy, the weather systems overload, and the hub erupts in a spectacular explosion. The Zolkar's control over the southern hemisphere is severed, and for the first time in months, the storms begin to calm. The Lysari emerge from their shelters, cautiously optimistic as they see the skies clearing. The tide has finally turned, and the Zolkar's grip on the planet is weakening. But as the dust settles, Foster knows the fight isn't over. The Zolkar will regroup, and the battle for Lyrus is far from won. Still, with their newfound control over the elements and the alliance with the Lysari, humanity has a fighting chance. The destruction of the central weather hub gave the humans and Lysari hope, but the Zolkar had no intention of surrendering easily. Their forces regrouped, and the remaining towers were cranked to full power. unleashing apocalyptic storms across the northern hemisphere of Lyrus. The skies darkened with unnatural ferocity, and the winds howled with unrelenting rage. The final battle was about to begin. Inside the Orion's reach, Captain Foster and his crew gathered for what they knew could be their last stand. Despite their recent successes, the Zolkar still controlled much of the planet's atmosphere, and their technology remained superior. Foster paced back and forth in the briefing room, feeling the weight of the responsibility pressing down on him. "Elena," he said, turning to the meteorologist who had been working tirelessly, "what are our chances of shutting down the remaining towers?" Elena, looking exhausted but determined, gestured toward the holographic map of Lyrus. "The northern towers are linked together in a much more complex network than the ones we've taken out. If we attack them individually, they'll just shift control to another tower. We need to hit them all at once." "And that sounds impossible," Reyes muttered, arms crossed over his chest. "Not impossible," Elena corrected. "Just difficult. If we can disrupt the quantum relay system that connects the towers, we can bring them all down in one coordinated strike. But we'll need to reach the Zolkar command ship orbiting the planet to do it." Foster nodded, his jaw set in determination. "Then that's our target. We'll infiltrate the command ship, take control of the relay system, and end this." The team prepared for the final mission. Knowing the risks, they boarded a small stealth shuttle and ascended into space, leaving behind the ravaged surface of Lyrus for the Zolkar command ship, looming ominously above. The shuttle's cloaking technology allowed them to slip past the ship's defenses, and soon they were inside the belly of the beast. The corridors of the Zolkar ship were dark and foreboding, with strange symbols etched into the walls. The humans moved cautiously, making their way toward the central control room where the quantum relay system was housed. As they neared their destination, the ship's alarm suddenly blared, and the Zolkar forces were upon them. A fierce firefight erupted in the narrow corridors, with the humans using every ounce of their training to hold off the superior Zolkar soldiers. Reyes led the charge, his combat skills keeping the team alive as they pushed forward. The mission was a race against time. The longer they fought, the more powerful the storms on Lyrus grew. "We're almost there!" Elena shouted over the sound of gunfire. She had the quantum relay coordinates on her device, ready to disrupt the system once they reached the control room. Finally, they burst into the central chamber, a massive room filled with alien machinery. At the heart of it was the relay system, its glowing core pulsing with energy. The Zolkar had designed it to link all their weather control towers, allowing them to manipulate the planet's climate from afar. Elena sprinted to the console, her hands flying over the alien controls as she began hacking into the system. "I just need a few more minutes," she called out, her voice tense with urgency. But the Zolkar weren't about to give up without a fight. More soldiers poured into the room, their weapons blazing. Foster and Reyes fought back, protecting Elena as she worked. The battle intensified, with explosions and gunfire echoing through the chamber. Suddenly, the relay system began to spark and glitch. Elena had successfully breached the Zolkar's defenses. "I've got it," she yelled. "I'm initiating the shutdown now." The relay system shuddered, and the lights in the control room flickered. One by one, the weather-controlled towers on Lyrus began to power down. The storms that had ravaged the planet for so long started to dissipate, the dark clouds thinning, revealing the first glimmers of sunlight in months. But as the system shut down, the relay core went critical. Elena's interference had destabilized the entire control network. The command ship began to quake violently, alarms blaring as systems overloaded. "We need to get out of here, now," Foster ordered, grabbing Elena by the arm as the crew sprinted toward the shuttle. They raced through the crumbling ship, dodging debris and avoiding explosions as the Zolkar vessel began to tear itself apart. Just as they reached the shuttle, the core exploded, sending shockwaves through the hull. The shuttle launched just in time, escaping the fiery destruction of the Zolkar command ship. As the humans descended back toward Lyrus, They watched in awe as the once chaotic sky cleared. The planet's weather was returning to its natural state, free from the Zolkar's manipulations. The Lysari emerged from their underground shelters, their faces filled with hope and gratitude. On board Orion's Reach, Vosta looked out at the peaceful skies of Lyrus and let out a long breath. "It's over," he said quietly. Elena smiled. Exhaustion etched into her features. "We gave them back their planet." Reyes, standing beside them, added, "And we showed the Zolkar that humanity won't back down, no matter how advanced their technology." The crew watched as Lyrus, now free from the storms and destruction, began to heal. The scars of war would take time to mend, but for the first time in a long time, the planet had a future.